Recently, I was sent a video of some gameplay footage from Tomos, who is a newer Ashes player in the community and who is looking for some advice. And I said, record your game and send it to me, and I'd be happy to do a video on it. And so here we are. So in this video, it's me, Tomos versus Josh, another Ashes community regular. I'm going to be doing some play-by-play commentary on the video, offering some like coaching and advice, and I hope that it's helpful for you as well. And if this is successful, then I'll keep doing videos like this in the future. So let me know what you think, and let's get right to it. All right, so kicking things off, let's just go ahead and look at this deck list real quick before we go on. Looks like Thomas is on Echo, and it looks like it's some sort of mid-range knight-based Echo list. So we've got Crypt Guardian, Master Vampire, and Realm Walker, a full suite of those, or almost full suite, 2 copies of each. And it looks like this list is going to be focused on generating round over round value with these knights, getting them to trade up and get a lot of value for these dice, and then reuse these knights with unexhaust tricks like Chaos Gravity and Flute Mage. So that's kind of looks like the general game plan. You have a lot of exhaust tech in here. You've got Crypt Guardian and Realm Walker, Blood Chains, Echo's ability, Chaos Gravity, Tidal Shift, Two Shadows. All of this stuff to sort of clear out blockers with exhaustion so that you can get these big swings in, and just generally keep your opponent off of being able to use their units. So this is a pretty sort of popular style of Echo, although this is a dice spread that's not quite as common, but you definitely see a lot of the time illusion happening in Echo for sure. Yeah, overall, I think this list looks really solid. You've got False Demon. It's a fantastic conjuration in general. It's really good in Echo with Gravity Flux. Salamander and Seafoam Snapper are 2 of the best conjurations. Really high value, cheap conjurations that work really well together. Raptor Herder is just really solid on defense or offense. Great unit. And, Sympathy Pain for removal / burn. Fate Reflection to protect your investment on these knights, which is really good. And it looks like they're running the Accelerate combo. So Accelerate 2 Shadows. You can Accelerate, use Echo's ability to Gravity Flux, and then 2 Shadows to kill a unit right away, which can be pretty solid if you're running into like other knights and stuff like that. But yeah, it looks pretty solid here. I think that there's probably some optimization that can be done with like just counts on cards, like the number of different cards. I wonder about Accelerate, whether it's worth the slot or not to basically just turn on 2 Shadows, because I mean, I guess you could use it with Tidal Shift too, but I do wonder if it would eventually be on the chopping block when you go to optimize this list. Standstill. I wonder if Thomas has been running into fallen lists or mill walls or something like that, where this would be something you want 2 copies of. I think it could probably go down to 1, but it can be generically pretty useful too, just to get past that last standing blocker that hasn't been exhausted yet. Can be pretty potent with Realm Walker. So yeah, this looks really solid so far. I think the deck construction looks good. So let's go ahead and see what they first 5. Oh, real quick, looking at the other side of the table, Josh is on Odette. So one thing to be aware of when you jump into a match, especially if it's a closed list situation, look at your opponent's Phoenixborn and look at their dice, and it'll tell you a lot about what you're up against just by doing that. Odette has access to Sword of Virtue, signature card, and Sword of Virtue is going to be a pain point for this matchup because it is really good against knights. It will always trade up against them. Your Fate Reflections here won't offer any protection against Sword of Virtue, so that's just something to keep in mind. With this dice spread, you're very vulnerable to that. Um, and it's a pretty easy card to first five as well. So just keep that in mind with your first fives. Enter the Fray is going to be really solid. Just in general, you can get rid of those Raptor hatchlings. Odette could just really control your board presence really well with Sword and Enter the Fray. So just something to be aware of with that. Looking at Odette's dice spread here, a big nature investment, a big charm investment. So probably we'll see Gilder, and Gilder is going to be kind of a pain for you to deal with here as well, because it can, if your Snapper doesn't have a token or, you know, Raptor hatchling or whatever, it can ping those away and set up a blocker. So it's going to be hard to swing through that, but you do have a lot of exhaustion here, so I think that's going to help as well. I think the biggest thing to think about here with Odette is her battlefield is 5. So these exhaust cards are going to be potentially very strong, because you can just clog up her battlefield and she won't have any room to summon new blockers. So that's just something to keep in mind there. But anyway, let's just go ahead and look at first 5 choices. Going with the 3-book setup here, that's 4 dice, which means probably going to be on Double Knight, if I had to guess. Yep. So we're going with Crypt Guardian and Master Vampire. And it looks like Thomas gets to choose who gets to go first. They're choosing to go first. Yeah. So let's go ahead and see. I think as far as the roll goes, it's not great, but it's not terrible either. You'll have to meditate a bit here, I think. Yeah, with sympathy being so key here, I think you're gonna have to meditate a bit. Now, first thing first, you start off with the False Demon book, and that's good. I think you could probably start off with either Salamander or False Demon would be the two choices here. Salamander's the kind of always the safest book to open with, just because you get a lot of main actions out of Salamander Monk. It's a low commit summon. Putting the False Demon book down first, it's a little bit higher commit to put the False Demon out. Plus, False Demon's a lot more reactive. I mean, in Echo, it's probably fine because you can Gravity Flux and then False Demon, but it's a little bit easier to play around False Demon than it is to deal with Salamander. So just something to think about. I think you could have played the Salamander book first, but it's not, it's neither here nor there. But Thomas did not meditate at all. And one thing with this is, like, when you're looking at an opponent's dice spread, if they don't have any means of interacting with your dice, if they can't spin them down with Magic Siphon or Illusion Power or anything like that, then I tend to like to want to meditate, get all my meditation out of the way early, for the most part. Now, you can, like, hide information based on what you meditate, or you can give information based on what you meditate. Obviously, meditating from your deck, you're going to give your opponent some information about what cards are in your deck. So that is something to be aware of. But also, meditating sort of can give your opponent an idea of what cards you're looking to play. So meditating early, I usually like to do that if I can, just so that I don't end up in situations later where I really need to med and do something else with my side action on the same turn. In this list, this opening, there's not a lot of side actions here except for it's just Echo, really. So I guess you don't really have to worry about it too much in this situation, but just something to be aware of, that I like to get meditating out of the way unless my opponent has a way of messing with my dice. But you already have the dice you need to play the book you put down, so that's fine. You're not really giving any other information away with this. So we see opponent meditating and putting down Lightbringer. So already we have a little bit more information about what our opponent is doing. And it's interesting because Blood Archer is not typically a knight you see a whole lot of. It's an interesting choice, and it's like not seen very often. But more importantly, the Lightbringer. Um, Lightbringer on only one divine die, you can reasonably assume that that divine die is going to be used for Lightbringer every single round, and that it's unlikely that your opponent is going to have a bunch of cards in their deck that use divine costs, just because this is the single divine die, and you've got the book here that Lightbringer is really solid and probably want to use it every round, generally speaking. So you may see, Angelic Rescue or Heal or Kneel maybe, but given the single divine here, I think it's reasonable to assume that Lightbringer might be the only card in the deck that uses it. So just to be aware of that. Um, and Lightbringer is going to be potentially really good against this, Knights thing that has going on here. So, Salamander Book comes down again, no meditation. At this point, I think you could probably meditate a little bit, just because your opponent knows, like, you don't have any sympathy dice. You don't have any. All of your sympathy dice are on basic, so you can safely med up to some sympathy and not give away too much on what's in your hand. But just something to think about there. Okay, so Josh plays Summon Gilder. Just looking at the dice spread earlier, we kind of already knew that this was coming, and it is going to be a little bit painful to deal with, based on just what we've seen so far. Lightbringer and Gilder. It's looking a little bit defensive oriented, compared to some other Odettes. So that's just something to keep in mind. And the heavy charm investment is kind of interesting too. So we'll see how this develops. But like so far, it's looking like the Echo may be the more proactive kind of beatdown deck in this matchup. Oh, and also, okay, we just see a meditation here too. Josh meditates Enchanted Violinist, which is very interesting. You can run Enchanted Violinist just as a generic, like, good 1-drop, 1/1 ally that can ping for 1. But typically, you don't really see Enchanted Violinist outside of decks that have either a mill win condition or like mill as a backup. And so far, given the dice spread we've seen and given the books we've seen and the meds we've seen, I think it's safe to assume that this Odette is probably playing more of a long game, some more defensive oriented, maybe a mill backup win condition, and more control-y, than sort of the more mid-rangey beatdown thing that we're used to seeing out of Odette. So just something to keep in mind based on what we've seen so far. Checking the discard, great. That's good. I think it can be really easy to get like wrapped up in what you're doing and forget to use all the information that's available to you. Checking that discard pile often and making sure you know like what's in your opponent's deck, really solid. So looks like we're gonna see the Snapper Book put down, which is fine. I think you could summon Salamander Monk here. So one of the best things about Salamander Monk is that it buys you a lot of main actions. You can, you put the book down, you summon the unit, you can attack with the unit. If it dies, then you get another attack, and it's just it can buy you a lot of time. And I think here, like, you can go ahead and get all your books out. That's fine. That's one way to do things. But you are giving away a lot of information about what's in your hand if you do this. The opponent can look at, your Phoenixborn, your dice spread, your 3 books here, and you've got 4 dice spread out about those 3 books, and you can reasonably tell. You can be like, well, my opponent could be on a double knight open. I think you could probably glean that from this. Now, there's other opens that can, use this setup. You could certainly be on other things, but given Echo's 3 spell board, and the dice configuration and what's on the board right now, I think this gives a lot of info away. Whereas if you were to say play Salamander Monk book first, and save the some Snapper book, right? And then summon Salamander Monk. You're doing something proactive on the board. You're getting a unit out there. They have to, either react to it or not. But you give them less information, right? In round one, hiding your options is really, really good because reactive play is strong in Ashes, and being able to commit less than your opponent so that you can get more value out of your dice later in the round when all the information's on the table is really strong. So just being a little bit more conservative with playing your cards early, use your books, get your units out, and keep some cards back in your hand can go a long way. But there's nothing necessarily wrong with setting up all the books first either. You get to wait on developing your board until you see what your opponent's doing, which that's fine too. So just something to keep in mind. It's like you can go either way with it. I typically like to hide what's in my hand a little bit more, but we do see meditation now, and it looks like meditating for the ceremonial dice and a sympathy and another sympathy. Okay, so let's talk about this med. First off, really sucks to see both sympathy pains and a chaos gravity in the discard. That's really rough. Unfortunately, that's not a great not a great set of meditations, but it is what it is. It happens. Meditating for the ceremonial. Now, given what we just talked about, your opponent knows what's on your board, right? They know what you're capable of there. They don't know what's in your hand. But meditating up to those ceremonial dice is going to give them a better idea of what's in your hand. If it were me, if I don't get all my meditation out of the way early, like I was talking about, then if I'm meditating here, I would want to meditate to get the dice I need for the books that are in play, and maybe wait to meditate for the Master Vampire, the Crypt Guardian, because you can do that the turn you play them. You have no other side actions that you need to do the turn you play those units. So again, hiding that information from your opponent and waiting to give that to them until the turn you do it, I think would be a little bit better. I would have preferred to meditate just the sympathy and the time for the Salamander Monk and the Seafoam Snapper. That way you're giving away less information. We see Butterfly Monk here. So Butterfly Monk, I think, is solidifying for me the fact that this deck is very much the control deck, the slower deck. This looks very, very long, like late game oriented. We see Salamander Monk from Thomas, which is, it's good. I think given the options you have right now, Salamander Monk, again, it's the lowest committal play. False Demon can't get its value right now. Seafoam Snapper doesn't have any targets to eat. So yeah, I think this is the right thing to do. And playing the Knight, again, is pretty high commitment. And given the Sword of Virtue, I think you just kind of want to wait for that. So good job with the Salamander. That's the way to go. Okay, so all right, yeah. So this is really interesting. Josh uses Odette, the Odette ability, to take out the Salamander Monk, and then uses a frog die to kill the spirit. Now that's really interesting, and it tells you a lot about what's potentially left in Josh's hand, right? If you look at what's on the board, they've got Gilder is 2 dice, Lightbringer's 1, and Butterfly Monk is 1. That's 4 total. So 4 dice spent on board. And if they spend 1 on a dice power, that means they have 5 dice remaining for the 2 cards that are in their hand. Now, to me, if they're, trying to go for a 10 die opening, that tells me I could probably expect a Sword of Virtue and a Knight in the opening hand alongside these units. That would put you up to 10 perfectly. And it's a really well-rounded opening. 3 books, removal, knight. Um, and so yeah, spending that die on the dice power, I think probably gives me a little bit of information about what's left in their hand. Now they could be doing other things, could be a different opening, but I think 9 dice on cards and 1 dice power looks reasonable here. Now the using Enter the Fray on the Salamander Monk and the die on it, I think I'm not sure why Josh went that route, because it's a lot of resources to sink into just killing a salamander. Um, you definitely traded up on that. You got the damage in, you exhausted their ability, and they spent a dice power killing your 1 die unit, which is great. I think this is good for you here. But just thinking about like why they would do that, I think it denies you the Seafoam Snapper, and it sort of forces your hand into like committing more on board. Plus, it gets the Salamander Monk out of the way and the Spirit out of the way for Lightbringer to do its job. So I think that's why they went that direction. But it is interesting um, to see that. I think it's kind of a lot of resources to commit to killing the Salamander Monk, but it could be good. So it does sort of force your hand here. You don't want to play False Demon because it doesn't have any targets. You don't want to play Seafoam Snapper because it doesn't have any targets. So you're kind of forced into playing one of these 2 knights. Looks like you're thinking about Master Vampire. Okay. So Master Vampire is the correct play here, I think. Be careful about your dice, which ones you spend. Yep, that's looks like the right one to go with. Yep. So Master Vampire is definitely the right play here because Crypt Guardian, if it gets Sword of Virtue, there's no targets on the field for it to exhaust. So yeah, I mean, I would have preferred to be able to wait to play the Master Vampire a little bit longer, but it's kind of your best option here. Lightbringer comes down, and we're gonna see an attack. Attacking the Lightbringer directly. Okay. I think this Master Vampire likely gets blocked no matter what. But if it were me, I think I would choose the Phoenixborn as my target, just to sort of give my opponent the option. Because I think I would prefer to have that 3 damage put on Odette than on the unit. So if my opponent does slip up for whatever reason and decides to just let that attack through, then I'm probably happier with that than the Lightbringer staying or getting killed. So yeah, I don't know. I think that the Lightbringer is going to step in front of Odette regardless, but just something that like I think I would rather target the Phoenixborn just in case my opponent decides to do something unfortunate. So Gilder comes down, pings the vampire, which is great. I think I'd rather see this damage go onto an already wounded vampire, like a wounded and exhausted vampire, than killing my Seafoam Snapper, because I think it's reasonable to assume as the Odette player that you may not be able to get this Snapper token. It might be difficult to do that. So you may be forced to play the Snapper without the token, which means Gilder gets a nice juicy target there. So looking at the situation already, I think Master Vampire eating a Lightbringer, eating a Gilder ping, and still being around for Odette to deal with. It's already gotten so much value this night, and that's great. This is exactly what you want with this build. You want these knights to be eating up a bunch of resources. So I think this is solid. I think you're in a good place here so far. More meditation. We see Raptor Herder. It doesn't tell us a whole lot about what they're doing because Raptor Herder goes into basically everything. So this is an interesting situation. You could go for the Snapper. You could throw out the Crypt Guardian if you want. I think Crypt Guardian would be fine here. Okay, we see Gravity Flux. So I don't necessarily like this, and it looks like Thomas is trying to cancel this. I'm not sure if you can cancel it. You may have to use manual mode. Because yeah, I don't know if I like the gravity flux here because the false demon can't kill it. So you're just, you're using your Phoenixborn ability just to do 1 damage. Um, yeah. Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay, so something to be aware of with Ashteki. In real life, this is not a thing, but if you, unless your opponent has the reaction buffer turned on, if you see this waiting for opponent when you deal damage to something, it means that they might have a reaction in hand. So your opponent has, a charm power up, which means it might be a Golden Veil in their hand. So just something to sort of keep in mind. If it is Golden Veil, um, the Golden Veil and Butterfly Monk on board means that the rest of their dice is Nature, Charm, and 2 Ceremonial, which is a very strange combination. But we've already seen the Blood Archer in the discard pile, so you know that Blood Archer's on the table, and it could be another dice power spent. Honestly, so it could be Golden Veil and Blood Archer for a lot of pings. Just something to think about there. I do think this play is not great. I would rather have saved the Gravity Flux False Demon for being able to kill the Butterfly Monk, get it off the board. And then like I would have summoned the Snapper, I think, just to be able to like. Oh, okay. Golden Veil on the Gilder. That is very interesting. I don't know really what's going on here with on Josh's side of things, because that seems like a very lot of resource, like a lot of resources spent. Golden Veils are precious, like precious resources, and you really want to maximize them. Denying a single damage on a Gilder that's going to survive anyway, and that your opponent doesn't have any dice to like, it's not like Thomas is running nature power here to kill the Gilder off. I'm not really sure why you would Golden Veil that. It seems a little bit wasteful, but we'll see what the rest of their hand looks like. Okay, so it is Blood Archer. So yeah, I think, okay, and it's Blood Archer dealing 1 damage to the vampire. So your Master Vampire is going to die to this Blood Archer ping or to a nature die, and that's fine. It's already gotten so much value. But yeah, having used the Golden Veil and the Gilder, I think this is a big win for you. Because now, well, I'm not really sure what ability you would have here, but say you played Realm Walker and then you swing. They can't Golden Veil that Realm Walker trigger anymore, right? Um yeah, I'm not sure what they would be scared of. Maybe they saw your dice and thought like maybe this is the best value I'm going to get for my Golden Veil, but I probably would have held on to it just to have it there. But yeah, I think your Massive Vampire is going to get a ton of value here. I would have rather had the Snapper out. But then again, they would have Blood Archered your Snapper. So, and since you had already seen the Blood Archer earlier, and you see the Nature dice here, maybe you're looking to try and get that token later in the round. I think you can try and play for that token. That's fine. But it is sad to have the False Demon miss, essentially. Crypt Guardian probably would have even been a better play, I think. Just so that you can delay summoning that demon until later in the round. Okay, we're going to see an attack. This is great. Yep, good guard pressure. You're threatening to kill the Blood Archer and deny a lot of value. That's fantastic. I really like that play a lot. They're going to develop the butterfly monk and take out the vampire. That vampire got so much value, like just an enormous amount of value. It's great. Okay, and now we have the protected snapper. That's great. You were able to get that token, which maybe you were playing for that from the start, and if you were, that's awesome. I think there's different ways you can go about this round one, but I think this is solid. You had to sacrifice the false demon value to get this token, but that could totally be worth it considering your opponent's board right now. The snapper, protected snapper, seems really solid here. So, yep. Okay. See the ping there. Are we gonna see the butterfly monk swing at it? Nope. They're gonna play very passively, and they're passing. Yeah. So with the guard down, you still have to get through the Gilder, unfortunately, and the butterfly monk to try and kill this. So this is not gonna die. And in fact, I probably wouldn't have attacked there. I probably would have summoned or put down the Crypt Guardian instead, because with two unit guards out, you know that Snapper is not going to be able to kill this Blood Archer with this attack, and you're giving them the best possible trade that they can get on board with the Butterfly Monk into the Snapper. And like, I mean, I guess that gets the Butterfly Monk off the board, but their Blood Archer was at 2 wounds. It can't ping your snapper without killing itself, right? So it's safe. It's fine. And if they attack you, your snapper with the butterfly monk, to try and get rid of it, you have your guard up still, so you can guard that. On top of that, you can play the Crypt Guardian, and the Crypt Guardian is a unit guard as well. I think I would rather have played the Crypt Guardian, leave your snapper up, then let them choose what they want to do. If they want to try to send their butterfly monk at your snapper, you can either guard it with Crypt Guardian, which probably not a good play, but you can guard it with your Phoenixborn, take 1, and it gets to live. And their Blood Archer's just sitting there with 2 wounds. It can't ping anything, right? And then they have to pass, and you can swing with Crypt Guardian at the Butterfly Monk. Their guard's down. They have to use the Gilder to guard it, right? I don't know. I think you probably could have gotten through this round keeping both your Crypt Guardian and your Seafoam Snapper alive. Because I don't think there's really a way that they can get rid of either of them, or get rid of both of them. The only way that you lose your Seafoam Snapper here is by doing what you did, which is attacking the Blood Archer, attacking with it, and letting Butterfly Monk eat it. So just something to think about. I think that may have been a misplay there. Now they get to swing in with the Blood Archer too, which is that's another thing. It's like they get to swing here for 3, which they couldn't do before. If you just played the Crypt Guardian, you would have 2 blockers up, and if they swing with Butterfly Monk first, you're going to be able to guard it, and your Seafoam Snapper lives. And you can clean up the board pretty easily from there. So just something to think about. I think that would have been a much better play to just play the Crypt Guardian instead. Now you're taking 3. Okay, so Crypt Guardian comes down, which is looking really good right now, by the way. Crypt Guardian's really solid here. And yeah, this attack's got to happen. You're going to get the Gilder, but it's fine. You're going to kill the Gilder, and then you're going to exhaust the Blood Archer with Crypt Guardian at the start of the round. So really solid. Yep. Now both exhausted, and you're both going to pass. Now, real quick. Okay, so we're at 14 minutes. I want to go back a little bit here to this attack. Okay, let's walk through this round from here, and look at how this could have been better. Okay, so if you play the Crypt Guardian here, they cannot Blood Archer, or the Blood Archer will die. So what are their options? You have a Crypt Guardian down, and you have a Snapper down. They can attack with Butterfly Monk, and you can guard it. You can attack with they can attack with the Blood Archer at face, but it's either going to get um, value traded by the Seafoam Snapper or by the Crypt Guardian. Probably the Crypt Guardian, right? So they can like try to push that through, get some damage on the Crypt Guardian, but the Crypt Guardian's going to recover a little bit at the end of the round. They don't really have any good options at all. If you play the Crypt Guardian first. And then, so let's say they pass. You know, you play the Crypt Guardian, they pass. The next turn, you can attack with your Crypt Guardian. And you can just give them the option. Do you want to lose your Gilder? Or do you want to lose your Butterfly Monk? Or do you want to lose your Blood Archer? They're probably going to block with the Gilder. And then the Butterfly Monk gets to stay up, right? To trade with the Snapper. But then they still don't have any good options. They still can't use the Blood Archer with on your Snapper. And you still have your guard up. You get rid of the Gilder. You get to keep your Crypt Guardian out. You get to keep your Snapper out. And then they pass and you pass. What happens? The Blood Archer gets recover. And then it gets exhausted by Crypt Guardian. And you get to keep your Snapper and your Crypt Guardian out. And they have an unexhausted Butterfly Monk. They have a Blood Archer that's exhausted. And you get a stronger board presence. So let's skip ahead now to where we left off here. Instead, this is the end of the round. You have a Crypt Guardian on your side, and they're gonna have an exhausted Blood Archer. Their Butterfly Monk is gone, but your Snapper's gone. I think that both of these situations are good for you. Like, I think you came ahead this round no matter what, right? But I think you could have probably taken less damage and had a stronger board going into round 2 if you had done it the other way around. Now they get top of the round regardless, but I do think that you could have been better positioned doing it a different way than where you're at here. This is certainly not bad. I think you're still in a good spot, but it's just something to consider for sure. Okay, so let's see if I can get that off the board. Sorry, I don't know how to make this go away. There we go. Okay, so Lightbringer. Wow, you rolled pretty good here too. That's pretty solid. Your hand is not great. This is not a good hand. You know, you're playing a knight heavy list and you didn't draw any knights. You've got one ally in hand. You do have the accelerate 2 shadows, which is solid, and you can use the 2 shadows to kill the Blood Archer, of course. That's on the table. Standstill, you know, you don't have a ton of use for it right now. But yeah, I think this is a pretty rough draw, unfortunately. Might, you know, give you some insight into the deck building we were talking about earlier. I said, you know, I'm not sure about, you know, how good Accelerate 2 shadows is going to be, and you don't have a whole lot of use for Accelerate outside of that in the deck. Although it will draw you a card, so there's that. It does replace itself. But anyway, let's look at what they're doing. They summon Lightbringer, which is, you know, great top of round. Now you have to commit the Crypt Guardian swing. And they're meditating. They meditated Sympathy Pain, great to see in the discard. Reclaim Soul. They meditated up for a Ceremonial Power. Okay, attacking the Blood Archer. Why are you attacking the Blood Archer here? Because, like, that 2 damage going to the exhausted Blood Archer, you have 2 shadows in hand. You have a way to deal with this card. You don't need to put damage on it. You don't have any easy way to get that last damage on it either. They may guard this. Like Phoenixborn guard it, but I doubt it. So I don't know if that attack is very good. You can attack the Lightbringer, but that's not really good either. I would attack face and give them the option. of either taking the 2 damage or blocking with the Lightbringer. But what you could do, you could Gravity Flux the Lightbringer and get the 2 damage into face guaranteed. And I like that a lot. I think that's, you are the aggressor in this matchup. You want to get them down. You want to get them dead fast because like they're playing a very late game oriented deck. So if they're gonna like Lightbringer with it being the only blocker available, I really like Gravity Flux Swing, get 2 damage in on them, and just, you know, try and beat them down. So I would personally have done that because I think the 2 damage on the Blood Archer here is kind of wasted. But they do guard it, which is fantastic for you. I mean, I don't know if I would have guarded it necessarily, but given like your dice spread, I don't know how much you have that can actually, you know, deal with that later. So I don't know. I think you got a little lucky with them Phoenix board. Phoenix talking is hard. I think you got a little bit lucky with them Phoenix Born guarding that because you got the damage and the guard pressure, which is amazing. But I think I would have probably Gravity Flux Swing instead. But it worked out for you really well. So you meditated a Tidal Shift. That's unfortunate. Tidal Shift would have been really great to see in this hand without a lot of allies in your hand. That would have been really great because you could get an exhaust and then summon a new unit. And I think that's a good argument for maybe having more Tidal Shift instead of the Accelerate, or instead of the Standstill, you know, because I think it's just going to be more useful to you in more situations. So Butterfly Monk comes down. They med up to, okay, so anytime your opponent meds up a charm power, you have to assume that Golden Veil is online. Any deck that's running charm, any amount of charm, probably has Golden Veil in it. Especially one like this where you've seen they have like high investment knights. So seeing that, you should know there's probably Golden Veil. Fortunately, you have 2 of your 2 shadows, so you definitely are going to be able to kill this Blood Archer through a Golden Veil. Salamander Monk is great here. Again, it's the low committal option. It's going to, you know, trade up with these 1/1s on your opponent's side of the board. And with their guard already broken, you get to choose the best trades here. I mean, they have the unit guard. They have the Butterfly Monk. So that's not necessarily true, actually. Sorry. But, okay, so once again, and I think this is good for you in general. Like, I can see where this is useful for them because they're denying the Seafoam Snapper tokens, and they're, you know, forcing your hand with playing the False Demon maybe earlier than you want or whatever. But Gilder plus Frog just to kill a single Salamander is just a lot of resources to commit to killing a Salamander. And so I think this is what you want to see. Like, you want to see them sinking more resources than they have to into dealing with these units. I think this is pretty good for you. And look at, like, so far, look at their, like, they have a, you know, a big board, right? But they've used all their books. They've used 4 of their dice. Their guard is broken. Their main removal unit in Blood Archer is exhausted. You have 9 dice left, 2 books, and like a fistful of cards. Your guard's up. Your Phoenix Born ability's up. You're ahead on damage. I think you're in a good position here. And their battlefield is slowly getting full. So if you, as an looking across the table at an Echo's all about exhausting, and getting those tempo swings in. And I think like that would be really scary, I think, for this Odette to be sitting across the table from right now. Especially since, like, giving your dice spread right now, it's not unreasonable to assume a Realm Walker might be on the way. So it all just kind of depends on where you want to go from here. Okay. So here you don't go for the snapper token, and that's fine. I think, you know, they don't seem to have a lot of like ping removal left to like get the value kill on that easily. They do have, you know, the 2/1/1s here, so they can do that. They can pressure your guard. Which yeah, that's a reasonable way to spend your guard for sure. Not a problem at all. They exhausted a blocker. You keep your 2/1. And you might be able to like pressure with it here. Maybe kill the Gilder. But I think you could have maybe gone for Raptor Herder instead. Or even, well, I mean, Raptor Herder. If here's the thing, if you go with Raptor Herder, you have a better chance of getting that Snapper token later. But it's just as vulnerable to the stuff that they just did as Snapper is. So this would be a great opportunity for False Demon. Yep. So okay, using the ceremonial there. Um, given your hand and what's available to you in there, I would have used a different die. Um, either a sympathy die or potentially a time, because you can keep that ceremonial up for recurring a different night and playing it late in the round. Um, you know, if you wanted to met up later and then like recur a Master Vampire or a Realm Walker and play it here, I think that would have been really, really strong. Um, because they're most of their dice are already being committed and their books are all done and they're like their board's full. Like that's prime time for like getting some serious, and the guard's broken. Prime time for getting some serious Master Vampire value. But now that play is off the table. So just think about like, you know, how you spend your dice in that way with your basics. False Demon's great here though. You're gonna kill the Lightbringer. Unless they Golden Veil it, which they don't. So yeah, you got the kill there, that's great. You're gonna lose your Seafoam Snapper. Because your guard's down. And they'll get a heal off of that. But c'est la vie. Now you can still use this other ceremonial to recur a Realm Walker. That's still on the table, but okay, Sword of Virtue. They're unexhausting the Blood Archer and killing the Snapper. Okay. That's actually really interesting. That means they're spending their best removal to deal with Crypt Guardian. Which is good. But they did get that value kill on your Snapper, and they have the Blood Archer up now. But the thing is, though, you have this Accelerate play in hand, so I'm curious to see if you're going to use that. Accelerate 2 Shadows. Now they still have that Golden Veil available, probably. But yeah, Sword of Virtue on the Blood Archer is interesting. Especially given they know that you're on like a Night Heavy build. Look at the dice here. Like, you know, their board is only slightly better. And they mm, this isn't gonna work. You're just gonna kill a Gilder. Unless you stand still. That would be hype, actually. Are you gonna stand still this? Yes. Okay. Alright, that's great. Yeah, and you won't need the accelerate. Did you mean to? Oh no. Oh, I hope you didn't mean to. Okay. Yeah, and then okay. So Okay, let's walk through this. Because I forgot. I was like, oh, this is so hype. They have the Golden Veil. You know that. Well, you don't know it, but you saw them met up for it. They're either going to be able to Golden Veil your Gravity Flux or your Standstill. So, like, this play guaranteed is not going to work. You're getting them to spend the Golden Veil, but that's it. Accidentally, I hope it's accidentally, but discarding the Raptor Herder is really bad here. It's your last unit. You don't need both of these two shadows. I don't think. You probably didn't need the Accelerate anymore. I would have gotten rid of the Accelerate instead, because now your only unit play this round is gone. And you sacrificed, you exhausted your False Demon, which now they can swing with the Blood Archer. You exhausted your False Demon. You spent a dice and a card and 2 cards, your last unit, and you used your Gravity Flux, and you basically didn't get anything out of it. You killed a Gilder. That's really, really rough. So I think if you, knowing that they have that Golden Veil up, they meditated up for that charm power, that's a really risky play. And it didn't work out for you, I don't think. There's just a lot of resources gone for not much benefit at all. You got the Golden Veil out of their hand, but that's basically it. And with your guard down, they get a free kill on this Crypt Guardian now. And they even used Fester, so they didn't even have to swing their Blood Archer. Eek. Yikes. I mean, they could have done that anyway, regardless of your play earlier. But shouldn't that have oh, but the Crypt Guardian was exhausted. Yeah, so they don't get the exhaust off that. My bad. Yeah, suddenly this is turning around for your opponent. Like, it's looking a lot better for them. Because your hand is really rough. Now, granted, the Raptor Herder wouldn't have done a whole lot with the rest of your board exhausted and destroyed. Like, it's not like great, but it's units. And it's like, you get top around next round. So, okay, we're going to see that. And yeah, that's good. Good to get that off the board. Ooh. Oh, that sucks. This is looking really bad. They meditate. Wait, what? They meditated the Frostbite for. Well, I guess they can't play Frostbite anyway. Their spellboard's full. Okay, you're gonna take 4 damage here. It's really rough. No, you still have. No, don't pass me. Oh no! Oh no! I mean, what else can you do though? Am I stupid? You don't even have any. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, okay. You could. I'm sorry, but like you could have meditated up to the ceremonial power, right? And then if they choose to use Enter the Fray to kill your False Demon, you now have another main action. You can ceremonial back a Raptor Herder and play it. Like your options aren't great here given your dice. Like, that's true. But you could pull something back and play it. And if you had meditated earlier in the round, this is what I was talking about earlier with the way you spent your dice, right? Imagine way back earlier in the round, if you used a False Demon, when you summon the False Demon, you use that basic time power instead of your ceremonial power die, right? Or no, it was like a basic. But imagine you had done that and you used one of your sides earlier in the round to meditate up. Now you can side action ceremonial power, summon back a Master Vampire, get a free kill on whatever you want on their side of the board, or 3 damage in, and you got a knight on the board at the end of this round. Instead, you're left stranding 4 dice. That is so huge. So like now, where you were in like a commanding position in round two, like a very strong position in round two, you're now getting close to losing the game midway through round three. So, um, did you keep? You drew 4 cards. You kept the accelerate. I would not have kept it, but um, okay. Salamander Monk down. It's great. It's a good idea. Gilder's gonna kill it, and then yeah, they don't have the power die to get rid of it this time. The nature power. I think you have to gravity flux. Okay, actually, so the Salamander Monk I think is a fine. It was an okay play, but given that they had no charm power online, um, I think that would have been a better opportunity to gravity flux the hatchling and summon false demon and kill the hatchling. You need to play defense now. Like it is swapped now. You were the beatdown before, you were the aggressor before, but you're on the back foot. You need to start like putting up defense. Killing that hatchling and getting a blocker out when they can't react to it because they don't have any power sides. I think that's like that would have been the way to go. Instead of the salamander, because you can always summon the salamander after that next turn. The Gilder can't kill your false demon, so I think that would have been the better play. Because now you kind of, if you do the gravity flux false demon thing now, they can golden veil it. So, and they also have ping fester online now. They can frog ping and fester whatever knight you put into play. And you don't have the fate reflection, obviously, to deal with it, so. Yeah, this is a rough spot. I would almost be interested in accelerate here just to draw a card and see what you can get. Just to look at your options. Accelerate, give yourself some sides, and just see what you have. Okay, Gravity Flux Hatchling, right? Yep, and they will probably Golden Veil one of these. False Demon. I think that was the right die choice this time. Okay, well, you got the kill on it. That's good. They may be saving that Golden Veil for another Blood Archer. They'll probably be summoning a Butterfly Monk here. I see your chat here. First time playing against something like this. I mean, this is not a very common Odette, I don't think. But it's really solid. Really solid so far. I think there's been, I think there's been some misplays on both sides, but I think both of you are making some really good plays too. So 4 spectators too. You guys had a lot of people watching. All right, Blood Archer comes down. Given that they didn't Golden Veil the false demon earlier, I think it's safe to assume that this Blood Archer is protected, which means kind of in a rough spot. I think at this point I would just attack with the false demon. Well, let me think. No, maybe not, because they can just kill it before you can get the snapper token. This is a rough position. These accelerates are not doing you any favors. They're basically worthless now. You can just cycle them because you have no side actions that need them, really. Yeah, I don't know what to do here. Wait. What are you chaos gravitating? This is not... No, this isn't what you want to do. Oh, I mean, okay, they're gonna Golden Veil it. Okay. I'll say this. I think that yeah, I'm trying to think like why that. I think you've gotten a little bit lucky with your opponent respecting the stuff you're doing a little too much. Um, because like that chaos gravity is not good here at all. You're placing it. You place an exhaust. You move one. So it's just two. It's a signature card, 2 dice for just exhaust something. Um, which I mean you're trying to set up the 2 shadows, but you know they have the golden veil anyway. So it's not a really good play. Um, but it ate the golden veil even though they maybe didn't need to commit it right there. They could have waited for the 2 shadows. Which means that now you don't have to like spend that 2 shadows. You can wait for a different time. Um, I mean maybe they wanted to keep their blood archer up, for like pinging, attacking, and so on. But I don't know. I don't necessarily think I would have golden veiled that. I think I just would have let the exhaust go through because it's not great value for you. But it got the golden veil out of their hand. They still have their blood archer up though. It's kind of a problem. They can't get rid of your false demon to get a swing through. That's gonna take 2 turns. They can summon the Lightbringer here and force you to attack with the false demon, which I think might be the best play. I guess with the golden veil, it doesn't really matter. If they do it this way, they get to keep using their blood archer. So maybe it's not that bad of a play. Maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh, but I would have liked to see my opponent spend 3 dice and 2 cards and golden veil the second thing so that they spend more of their resources this turn, and I don't mind if my blood archer is exhausted for that. I don't think, but it is also the biggest source of damage that they have on the board right now. So maybe that was correct. Might be reading a bit too much into that. Let's skip ahead here. Okay, they had some real life stuff come up. Let's see what Josh does. Okay. Ooh, I think you guard it. I think you guard that because then now they can either blood archer or nature. If you guard it, you just take one, and then they, have to spend 2 turns getting rid of it again. I would have rather just taken that damage. I think kept my false demon alive this turn. Realmwalker is great here, unless they have Fester. Yeah, that's the right way to go. Meditate, get that 2 shadows back online. That's the right way. Yep. Unfortunately, you're gonna strand another die this round. That's really sad. But if they have Fester, you're just really sad. If they don't have Fester, this still isn't like a great time to play Realmwalker because they have plenty of blockers and they're gonna like Lightbringer. Oh yeah, right. Oh, they're trading their. Interesting. Why are they trading their Blood Archer? They have nature dice. They could have kept the Realmwalker up. Okay, they're playing a new one, but then you could have 2, and then with Lightbringer, that's lethal. I mean, they have to deal with the Snapper, but they can. The second Blood Archer can ping the Snapper. So I don't know. That's very strange. Passing main, not gonna put the Snapper up. I'm gonna wait. I'm very curious why they didn't just use the. Oh wait. I get. Okay, they're using the Butterfly Monk here. I suppose if they had like Molten Gold, they would want to keep both of the nature powers up, but they didn't have Molten Gold, so I don't know. Seems a little weird to me to trade knights when you don't need to. Yeah, you pass again, and yeah, I mean you're in a losing position here for sure. And they get top around, so but yeah, they get the Lightbringer here, they get to attack the Lightbringer, and then they get to top around swing for 3. Which means you are dead, unfortunately. So, yep. You have 2 health left. You do want to discard. I would have discarded the accelerate. Not that it matters. I don't think you have any reactions that could help you here, but okay. Yep. Okay, so well played by Josh here with the win. Here's the thing. I want to go back to this because I think it's really important. I think you played really well this game, Thomas. I think both players played pretty well with some questionable plays. I think Josh, um, I think there was some justifications for his plays, and obviously I don't see Josh's cards in hand, so I can't know for sure what was going through Josh's mind compared to Thomas. I think there was a few times where, given the way the rest of the round played out, I don't know why Josh did some of the decisions he did, but there were justifications for them, I think, one way or the other. With Thomas, I think that you played really well, with the exception of like a couple of really key, really important misplays, and they just cost you the game, unfortunately. The middle of round 2, like almost halfway through round 2, you were in such a dominant position. Like you were feeling good. Like Josh was having to spend a lot of resources to deal with not a lot of your stuff. You were ahead on, you had a good board. You had their guard broken. You were ahead on life. You were ahead on dice. The world was your oyster. And that one play with the gravity flux, false demon, into swing into like standstill to try and get rid of that blood archer. Um, just something that, and I don't know what your card knowledge is like right now. This might be something that just comes with time, comes with experience. But if you see them meditate up to a charm power, you have got to assume that Golden Veil is online. And if Golden Veil is online, a play like that will not work. Like it just won't. You're going to end up spending so many resources and get nothing out of it. And that's what we saw happen. Unfortunately, you spent you spent a dice. What was it? A die, your Phoenixborn ability, 2 cards, and a unit swing to kill a Gilder. And that's really, really bad in a matchup like this. Like in any matchup, really. It's just really, really rough. The other thing I saw was like later, the Chaos Gravity play. I can see where you were trying to set up the kill on the Blood Archer with 2 shadows, but that's just a huge waste of a signature card, just to play it for a single exhaust. And again, the Golden Veil, you should know that it's available, and knowing that it's available, I think makes that play a non-starter. And then with earlier with the standstill too, discarding your Raptor Herder was a huge mistake, because that's your only unit for that round. And again, I think, okay, so in summary, here's the things I would watch out for in the future. Look at your opponent's dice and know what reactions they have available based on their dice. If they meditate up to a power, there's a reason they have that power. And so you need to think about like what plays do they have available with that power die. If it's charm, Golden Veil is online, and you have to be able to respect it, right? If you're really low on life and they meditate up to a ceremonial, they might have Final Cry, they could be pushing lethal soon. If they are running a lot of nature and they meditate up to 2 nature power, Molten Gold is on the table. Stuff like that. A lot of that will just come with time and with just becoming familiar with the cards, but think about your opponent's dice for sure. Secondly, um, think about your own dice too. Like that time that you summoned the false demon and spent the ceremonial instead of the time. That's such a small thing, right? Like at that time, it could have gone either way on like which die you would use. But using that ceremonial removed the option later in the round to recur the Master Vampire and play it, which would have been huge. It could have bought back. Honestly, it may have even given you the opportunity to make up for the false demon attack. Um, but like combined with the Raptor Herder, like Raptor Herder into that recurred Master Vampire could have been a big deal. Um, Instead, we left 4 dice stranding in round 2, and that's I guess my third point is um you can't really leave dice stranding at all. I think you left 5 dice stranding this game, and it's unfortunate because I think in round 1 you did such a good job of like forcing your opponent to spend more resources than they wanted to get rid of your stuff. You were building that dice advantage up in round 1 and the early parts of round 2, and by the end of round 2 you had lost all of that resource advantage because of those stranded dice. Like the opponent made all of that back and generated the board tempo that they needed to pressure the win in round 3. So all in all, I think you have a solid deck. It needs a few tweaks. I think keep playing these games and think about how often Accelerate is actually doing anything for you. Think about how often you need more units, right? Because you have a spell board of 3, and 3 spellboard Phoenixborn need to rely on allies a lot more than others. But yeah, just keep an eye on those things. Keep an eye on like how often you actually get accelerate value, because I think if either of those accelerates were more knights or more allies this game, you would have been in such a better position, right? Because you would have been able to use those dice more efficiently in round 2 and possibly round 3. So anyway, that's all I've got for you. I don't want to like say, you know, I don't want to make it out like didn't do a good job. I think you played pretty well. It was just a couple little misplays, maybe some deck tweaking, and you would have been dominating this game. Josh, I think you played really well too. Um, I don't know where your thought process was with some of those plays, but ultimately you won, and you still had 7 life remaining. I think you did a really good job, and both of these decks are pretty cool. I think there's just little bits of tweaking here and there on play and deck building for both of you. So, uh, if you liked this video, if you thought it was helpful, let me know in the comments and ask me to do more of them. If you want me to coach and like give commentary on your gameplay, record a video and send it to me, and I'll try to make time to do it. So until next time, I'll see you guys later.